Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be installing the CM4 that I got from the Pi shop. So let's get into it. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do, since I am going to be replacing my CB1 with that CM4, is I'm going to SSH into this 3D printer and back up all the files and save them so that when I remove that SD card and the CB1, I can start from scratch and then re-import all of my printer data. So let's go over to the computer. Okay, so I've gone ahead and SSH'd into my CB1 on my printer. I'm going to use the Kaya shell command. So I'll type in this command. It will bring up the script. And we'll go ahead and use this to back up our system. Okay, so now that I've backed everything up, I'm going to use an application like CyberDuck to then grab this backup folder and download it onto my local computer drive so it's no longer on the SD card of the Raspberry Pi or of the CB1. Okay, so now that I've brought that onto my local computer, I'm going to need to make a new SD card for the new CM4. So since this is a Raspberry Pi 4, I'll select that. The OS I'm going to select is in the other specific purpose OS, 3D printing, and mainsail OS. So I'll make sure I name the host the same as last time. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest of this and flash the SD card. Also, since I've already flashed this SD card, we're going to go ahead and get this printer on its side so we can get down to the electronics bay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 screws so we can remove the CB1. So with these 4 screws removed, I should be able to just pull this right off of the board. So first came off the heatsink. Okay, to provide some extra leverage, I'm going to use a plastic spudger. And just like that, the CB1 has been removed. One thing we'll need to make sure we do is remove the old SD card since we flashed a new one. And I'm going to set this to the side and I'm going to label it CB1 so that I don't lose it, just in case I need to get some data off of it. Okay, so before we install this and open up the CM4, I would like to give a shout out to the Pi shop. They helped provide the Raspberry Pi and all of these accessories. This is an active fan cooler, and this is the antenna that I can use that connects to the CM4. I do highly recommend ordering anything that you can from the Pi shop. They shipped the stuff the same day, and it literally arrived 2 days later. It was quick shipping, great turnaround, and great prices. For all your Raspberry Pi needs, please check out the Pi shop. Okay, let's go ahead and unbox the CM4. Once again, thank you to pishop.us/CA. So here is the new CM4 that we're going to install. Looking at the connectors here, this is the orientation. So we'll go ahead and push this into the board-to-board headers. Okay, before we power it up, we're going to install the Wi-Fi antenna. We just make sure we line it up, and then we just push down. Give it a little wiggle to make sure it is installed, and there is the Wi-Fi antenna. Okay, so I've just learned that in order to install this active cooler, this threads in from the opposite side here. I'm going to need to remove my entire M8P board. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the thermal pads on the respective chips. Okay, there are the 4 thermal pads installed. I'm going to go ahead and remove the protective film. So to install this will get set. Like so on the module, and then we will flip this over carefully to drive the 4 screws in here. Okay, there is the active cooler installed on the CM4. So let's go ahead and reinstall this board on the Voron. Okay, the board has been remounted. Now I'm going to install the SD card. Okay, as you can see, I used fan 6 on the M8P board to install and power the fan for the active cooler. So we'll head back over to mainsail to show you how I configured it within the printer.cfg. Okay, so as you can see here, the CM4 shows up in the temperature panel within mainsail. You can see the RPM of the fan here, the current temperature of the CM4, and then 40 degrees is the set point. So if it goes above 40 degrees C, the fan then starts turning on. So we'll head over to the printer configuration so you can see how I set that up. To get that set up, I created this as a temperature fan. I named it CM4. I'm using the PA2 pin for the control pin and PC1 for the tachometer. All these other settings I found elsewhere, and I've tried them and they've been working fine for me. The sensor, I'm using temperature host and using PID control. Let's head back to the printers. Okay, so I printed this with Polymaker ASA in pop green. I took a print that I found on Printables and I remixed it to fit the Wi-Fi antenna. So we'll go ahead and install this within the grid. Okay, as you can see, I've installed the grid like that. I was able to push the RP SMA into the skirt insert that I have a hole cut into. You can then use the 2 washers and the nut to secure it to the print. This is what that looks like installed. Here is the final look at the antenna installed on the outside of the Voron. The printable link is down below in the description, so you can print this for your own printer. Okay, so you may be asking, is the CM4 worth upgrading to over the CB1? Well, I have 4 reasons that I prefer the CM4 over the CB1. And so I have been using this for the past week now, and here are some things I've seen. The first one is, over the past week, I have not seen the Wi-Fi drop out at all. So with the CB1, I used to get notifications from my router saying that the device has dropped, and then about a minute later it would reconnect, and I'd get that countless times throughout the day. So most of the time when I wasn't using the printer, I would leave it off or unplugged so that I wasn't getting spammed with the disconnect messages. Over the past week with this new CM4 with the Wi-Fi antenna, I have not seen the printer drop at all from Wi-Fi connection. Another big improvement I've seen is I was actually able to finish the clip pane shake tune with the printer. With the CB1, I was constantly getting an error where it wouldn't even finish doing the shake tune to get me the input shaping parameters. Now I can actually complete that, and when it does render the input shaper graphs, it does that in about 30 seconds per axis. Another big improvement I'm seeing with the CM4 over the CB1 is I am getting about 20 to 25 FPS with my webcam on the mainsail app, and then while printing, I'm seeing it around 15 FPS. With the previous CB1, I was seeing maybe 15 FPS max just sitting there idle, and during print, it would go from 0 to 5 FPS. So this last improvement that I'm seeing is pretty subjective, but I am seeing a significant increase in performance on the mainsail application, and the loading time is significantly less when I go to the webpage to access mainsail. One quick note is the active cooler on the Raspberry Pi has been awesome. With the CB1, I only had just the heatsink, and so it was pretty passive, and I would see pretty high temperatures on the CB1. I never saw it thermal throttle or shut down for heat, but the CM4 with the active cooler is staying in the steady 40s degrees C, which has been great. Hopefully this video has answered some questions on whether or not you should upgrade from a CB1 to a CM4. But anyways, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.